Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after after 22 years. Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition, another week of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And before we get going, Pierre, I want to welcome back a new but old sponsor that was with us last year in the second half of the season, is with us again now for the second half of the season. That's TCS Shipping. You can go unlock the full potential of your shipping operations with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation, customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. So good to have them back, and our good friend Michael as well, Pierre.
Yeah, great to have Michael Mason and all the folks at TCS back. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to an amazing second half of the season in the National Hockey League. You know, you've got so much coming up with the league, with the Four Nations. Obviously, we're going to be down in Boston for the Beanpot. And then we've got the NHL playoffs right around the corner. Don't forget the trade deadline coming up. There's a lot coming.
There's a lot coming. You know what else is coming right now? And we didn't look this way about a month ago, Pierre. The Detroit Red Wings right now are en fuego. Hot wings coming out of Detroit right now. Hot wings. 7 in a row. And Pierre, you had an interesting stat that you discovered and pointed out that has been a key factor in this turnaround since Todd McLellan took over.
So they're 7-1 since he took over. Go look at their face-off stats. Every single game except for one, they've dominated the opposition when it comes to face-off wins. And the one that they didn't was against Columbus, and I think it was 51-49. So it was a 2 percentage point differential, which is amazing when you think about it. So face-offs have played a big role. Watch their game yesterday against Seattle. Watch the face-off domination against a Seattle team that's supposed to be pretty good on face-offs. They weren't yesterday, and they haven't been probably for a while. And just watch some of the goals that happen. Watch the power plays. Watch the structure in their own zone. Coaching matters. We've said it a million times in this league. Todd has made a huge difference. Todd McLellan's made a massive difference with the Detroit Red Wings.
Well, it's very true. And we just know what faceoffs mean in terms of possession, Pierre. And possession is something the Red Wings were not getting a lot of in the first half of this season. And he has come in and made a huge difference there. And you can see, too, I think, Pierre, you'd agree with me, too, not that he was playing poorly or anything, but Dylan Larkin looks revitalized out there right now.
100%. Yeah, no. He's shooting the puck. He's skating the puck. He's making plays. You see the enthusiasm after he scores, not just from him, but from the fans. You know, Detroit, Michigan's a great sports town. It is a phenomenal sports town. And obviously hockey town for a reason, because they were so successful for so long, starting in 95 all the way through to 2009 when they lost to Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup final in a Game 7 in old Joe Louis Arena. But they're hockey town for a reason. They're really good. And one of the things that was really exciting about yesterday for them, it's a football Sunday, a triple header. Their Detroit Lions are legit good. They're not playing yesterday because they got a bye. But you know the entire state of Michigan, and especially around the Detroit area, Ann Arbor East, they're watching football.
Yeah.
Except for the people that went to Joe Louis Arena. And it was jammed.
It was.
And it was exciting, and people were into it. And they were like, I was like, wow, this is great. Hockey's back in Detroit. This is so important. It's great.
Yeah.
You know what? And I thought Mickey Redmond was great yesterday. I thought Kenny Daniels was great yesterday. Like, I love hearing those guys get enthused.
Yep.
You know, there's a great goal by JT Compher scored a great goal yesterday off a face-off play. And it's a point shot that he deflects. And it's a brilliant deflection. Trust me, Mickey was really good with his stick around the net. He could shoot the puck. He could deflect it. Like when he was a player, especially when I was a young kid, Mickey, don't get mad at me. When I was a young kid in Montreal watching him play for the Canes, he was a really good offensive player. And he was great in Detroit too. But hearing the enthusiasm on that call in particular, if I'm I'm just so pumped for the rest of the year for Red Wings fans.
Yeah,
so
it is good. And look, I mean, they felt like maybe they were turning that corner last year. And then as we pointed out numerous times, Larkin got hurt, and that was sort of all she wrote for them. But obviously there's a ton of enthusiasm right now. I actually had a friend of mine, Kevin Greenstein, reach out to me, messaged me on Instagram and took some great pictures. He was at the game Friday night in Detroit. And he said, Jimmy, I couldn't believe it. I did not expect this environment. I thought it was going to, they're kind of climbing their way back into relevance. He said it was packed, it was loud, and everybody was into it. And he said the team looks really good.
One of the great things about going there, and I credit the Illich family and the people that are the top of the food chain with the Red Wings, whether it's Jimmy Devellano or back in the day, Kenny Holland and obviously Steve Yzerman. Go walk around that arena. Mm-hmm. It's a testament to the greatness of Detroit, Michigan's athletic prowess. It's like a museum for greatness in sport. Every time I've had the chance to go there, I go early. You know how early I get to the rink. You've been part of it. I go way early, and whenever I was doing games in Detroit, especially in there, just to walk around the concourse.
Cool.
I can see all the history.
I have to get out there, Pierre. I definitely want to check
Jimmy,
it out.
seriously, it's really special. They've done it. It's a fantastic arena. It's like a hall. It's really special. It really, and to see this now, this is huge for. I know teams are battling with them, and they're like, "Oh, come on, you two guys, stop!" No, we're not sucking up to them.
No,
you're telling the truth.
Yeah,
and the truth is, Hockey Town matters, and now Hockey Town is back.
Exactly.
And this is really good for the league.
And I'd be remiss if I don't mention Patrick Kane too, Pierre, who's definitely playing a lot better right now.
He's playing better. He is. I agree with that. And they. Look at their farm team down in Grand Rapids is doing fantastically well.
Yep.
So they got guys coming too. And Jimmy, I think you would agree with that.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, crush Yzerman, get rid of this guy. No, we kept telling people, don't. No. It's coming. Just a little more patience.
Just needed that change at the.
I didn't want. Look, I'm not going to take shots at Coach Lamont. I'm like, hey, he was there. Okay, he tried his arts off. He tried hard. Yep. He tried really hard. Yep. It didn't work.
That's what happens.
Sometimes it just doesn't work. There's something going on.
Yeah.
Now they got a guy that they're comfortable with. The players clearly are listening, and it's working.
Yep. And look, I agree. Greg Debo right there in the chat room is saying they're riding the coach's bump, plain and simple. That may be so, Greg, but I looked back, and the longest win streak that any team has gotten this year off a new coach, so in that coach bump phase, has been 4 games.
The bump is long gone. The bump's long gone.
This isn't just a bump now. This is real. This is them figuring out what they are and how they could have been doing this before. So I think obviously that's always part of it, but I think they're moving through that part right now, and they're coming out of it pretty good right now. And hey,
Jimmy,
look,
can I have one thing? Can I have one thing and that's why I'm glad you asked me at the beginning. If you don't believe me, just go look at the face-off stats the last 8 games.
Yeah.
And if this trend continues with them winning 55 to 61% of the draws, you watch where this team will be a playoff team, because that's they're not a shooting and retrieval team. That's not how they're built.
Nope.
They're a puck possession team. And so that's the stat that nobody's told you about. We're just, Jimmy and I, we talk, all we do is when we talk about hockey. Right, Jimmy? That's all we talk. And we talk for a long time about hockey. But this is important. It's one of the things about the Red Wings. You haven't read it anywhere. You haven't heard it anywhere. But I'm telling you, their face-off stats have changed the complexion of where they are as a group.
Totally agreed. Another team that is, look, I'll give them a lot of credit too. And they're right in the mix with the Detroit Red Wings right now. The Ottawa Senators, Pierre, when Linus Ullmark went down, they lose 4 in a row. And I think I'm on record here. I know I said it to you. I said, oh, they're done. This isn't good. They're going to go the other way now. And a credit to them, they dug deep, they regrouped, and they're back in it, and they're sticking around right now, and they're doing enough. And I won't just say that they're staying afloat, because I think that downplays how well they've been playing the last few games. They're playing hard hockey, Pierre. They really are. And I know they got Dallas on the tail end of a back-to-back and beat them. And people say, oh, well, they got a tired Dallas team. Okay, but you still have to do the job. Just because you get a team on the tail end of a back-to-back doesn't mean it's an automatic win. You still got to go out and win that game. So credit to them. And Pierre, a goalie that you know well and that you scouted and learned about a few years back during your time with the Senators, has taken over there right now while Ullmark's out and really helped them stay in this race right now.
We talked about him a lot. We talked about Madge Sogard and we talked about Levi Marilainen. And I'm really proud of both of them. They've done great jobs. Justin Peters has done a fantastic job as a goalie coach in Ottawa. He got the call up when new management came in, and he's really thrived and helped push their goaltenders to be better. And I'm really happy for Justin. He's a great – talk about great teammates, Jimmy, and you're a great teammate. He's a great teammate. Trust me when I tell you. I work with the man, spent a lot of time with him around the American Hockey League with he and Dave Bell. And I can tell you, he's just a fantastic guy, and he's done a great job with their goalies. But Donnie Boyd, the chief scout in Ottawa, and Mikko Ruutu, who's their scout in Finland, deserve a ton of credit, ton of credit for Levi being there. And I would just tell you that anything he does, that kid doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of Jake Ottinger in that kid. Now, he didn't play against Ottinger yesterday just because they played Casey DeSmith. Yep. But I would tell you that this guy's really good, and we'll see if he can handle a large sample size or not. But athletically, anything he does not surprise me.
And that's got to be, such a relief right now for Steve Staios and that hockey management group there in Ottawa, Pierre, because, I think it's only natural maybe in the back of their head when the Allmark injury went down, they start to realize he's going to be out for a while, and they're in the midst of that 4-game losing streak. He's probably, I know the media was pushing for it, but he had to naturally think in the back of his head, am I going to need to go out and find a goalie somewhere just to keep in this race and get going? And in case, who knows, if Allmark's injury, he could come back and maybe it acts up again later on and they need another goalie then. So for these guys to come out and step up like they have, has to be a relief for Steve Staios.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. One of the other things that's happened too, and again, people don't want to talk about it much. We talked about they need a right defense. They definitely getting Artem Zub back. And he's only been back a short while now. I think it's 5 games, maybe it's 4. Artem makes a difference. He's character. He's a veteran. He's impervious to pain. He really is a tough kid. And he's respected by his teammates. Getting him back helps the depth on their right side. So I think it's a great thing that you're bringing up Ottawa. I watched their game with Pittsburgh. Then I watched their game with, obviously, Dallas yesterday. So they were in a back-to-back situation too, by the way.
Yeah.
The only difference is, I'd say, their game in Pittsburgh, they got off to a lead, so they're kind of in cruise control, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They were kind of, and I don't think Pittsburgh really brought their A game on Saturday. Pittsburgh was much better against Tampa yesterday than they were against Ottawa on Saturday. But that being said, there's a lot of good things going on in Ottawa. The problem for them is, you talked about Detroit. People aren't talking about Montreal taking 3 out of 4 points this weekend against at Washington and home against Dallas. And Columbus Blue Jackets. When are Columbus Blue Jackets going to go away? We've been hot and bothered about them.
They're not.
But they're not going away.
No,
they're not.
They're not.
And so, Dean Evison deserves a lot of credit. Donnie Waddell deserves a lot of credit. Sean Monahan, who we've talked about a lot. And Jimmy, we got to try to get Sean on the show.
I would love that.
He deserves so much credit there. Phenomenal. And obviously Werenski's just been mammoth. He's just been so good for them.
Yeah. And, so here are all these teams, like you said, Montreal, Ottawa, Columbus, Detroit. They're all in the mix right now, battling hard, winning games. And a team that, we thought, and they still could be, we're down and out. The Bruins go into Florida, Pierre, and they give up the lead with 2 seconds left in regulation. And it was like one of those things too, Pierre. I think I was texting you or I was texting my sister. And I said, this is just like watching that train wreck you're waiting to happen. Like you could just see it, that they were not going to keep that lead and Florida was going to tie it. Sure enough, Florida ties the game. But David Pastrnak in the waning seconds of overtime. Yeah, that David Pastrnak guy, we're going to get into that in a bit. Such a troublemaker, such a bad egg in the locker room. Goes out and wins the game for the Bruins. So they keep their hopes alive a bit. We'll talk about them another time, because there's a lot I want to get into with them, but I do want to talk about that one situation, Pierre. It happened after, obviously, we were pre-recorded, so Friday we were not live. When this went down, you and I were both in transit to go to Northeastern to see the Northeastern Huskies and the UMass Minutemen play. And for those that don't know, a radio host in Boston on WEEI went online. Keith, I always forget his first name. I apologize. But went on a show and he said that he had it on good authority from a source. Now, I should preface this by saying, Pierre, is that this radio host was the first one to have that Swayman's deal was done And he was also the first one, and not like we didn't see it coming, either or. I know everyone knew that was eventually going to get done. And also was the first one to have Jim Montgomery had been fired. We all saw that coming as well, but he was the first, just giving his credit where it's due. But out of the blue, he comes out and says this story where he said that Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak are not getting along to the point where Pastrnak now refuses to play on a line with Marchand in games, and that Marchand had reeled into him for some of Pastrnak's play on the ice. And the Bruins, not only did they immediately refute it, and I should have grabbed the soundbite, I apologize, but Brad Marchand just ripped this guy a new one, Pierre, and as he should, because it was just, there was nothing to back this report up with. And the other thing too, as we've said, is this is a radio host. This guy's not in the locker room all the time. He's not around the rink. He's not at games. He's just a radio host and an entertainer. He doesn't cover the team on a regular basis or even on a half basis. And he comes out and says this, and the Bruins just took that and reeled into it. And to be quite honest, I think it ticked them off a bit. I really do. I think that they were sincerely ticked off at this report, and good on them for calling it out.
I don't know the person, so I can't speak to it. I do know the reports, obviously. I know Brad Marchand, and I know David Pastrnak, and I'm down there in the hallway before massive games that they've played. I've never seen one inkling of whatever that report was. Never once. Doesn't mean it didn't. Does not mean it hasn't happened where there've been some animosity. That happens with every professional team. Guys get angry and point fingers and yell and scream, and sometimes it gets physical. Look at that's just pro sports, and if you don't like it, well, I'm sorry, but that's just how it goes. Doesn't mean that I refuse to play with this guy. Hey, look at everyone's saying this stuff about Vancouver. Look what they did. They got into Toronto at 4:00 in the morning on Saturday morning. Then they showed up to leave 3-0 on Saturday night.
That was a gut check.
All of a sudden, everybody's like, wow, I thought they hated each other.
Yeah.
They scored 31 seconds into the game.
Yep.
Brock Besser on a deflection off a Tyler Myers shot. There was no animosity there. Everybody was singing from the same songbook. Stuff happens. Yep. I want guys that are passionate. I want guys that challenge one another. I want guys that are going to police the dressing room. I want guys that are going to hold other guys accountable. I think there isn't a coach in the NHL or a manager in the NHL doesn't want the same thing. So maybe that's not like real life work habits or the work environment, but that's how it works in pro sports. I don't want to get too into it, but I don't know the reporter. I know Brad, I know David. I know how hard they push each other.
Yep.
So I'm just going to say respectfully that those guys did a good job on Saturday. That being said, I've never seen two weirder goals. The tying goal by Florida by Reinhart, and then the winning goal by Pastrnak, both at the same end with deflected pucks. They're the weirdest goals I've seen at one end to decide the game.
It was insane. But, that's a gutsy win by the Bruins, so credit to them for getting that win. They need those points. And quickly, too, I'll just say when it comes to Pastrnak, because this has been an ongoing thing where fans and media around here are questioning his passion and his desire to win. I'm just going to give you one story where the Pastrnak, I think you'll agree with me, Pierre, that we know is very affable, very lighthearted, a prankster, just loves to have a good time, loves to be happy, loves his teammates, loves the game. He's always in a good mood. I remember one time I got in the locker room and I may or may not have been allowed to be in there that early, but I was there and I just sat there and I waited till the rest of the media came. And Pastrnak comes out from behind. I don't know if he had been working out or he was just getting checked out in the back, and he comes out and he doesn't know I'm there. And he just takes his skates down, slams him off the floor, breaks his stick, F this, F that. And he's losing it. And I'm like, whoa. And then he looked over and he goes, I didn't know you were there. Sorry, Murph. And he starts laughing and everything. But I'm just trying to show is that this guy cares. He was upset with his game that night. I've seen it other times too. He's passionate. So, just because a player doesn't go out and fight every shift or lay a devastating hit every shift, that doesn't mean they're not trying. That doesn't mean that they're not caring or they're not passionate about it. So that's all I'll say about David Pastrnak.
Yeah, the one thing people need to understand too, we're in the dog days of the season. These are the hardest games to play right now. Mm-hmm. Players don't see light at the end of the tunnel. You're at the halfway point. A lot of the cities, and I know people don't want to hear this because they have jobs, but this is what these guys have to go through. This is what their life is. and they choose to make this their life. So I don't feel sorry for them, but I'm just telling you the reality of what they go through. This is a hard time of the year for every player, whether you're a star, whether you're a grinder, whether you're a middle of the roster player. It's a real hard time of the year. And that's why we see so many peaks and valleys with a lot of these teams. And that's why what's going on in Montreal right now is shocking. What's going on in Detroit right now is shocking. What's going on in Columbus right now is absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
So a lot of these teams, they're not dealing with this stuff in a negative way. They're dealing with it in a positive way.
Right. And you know what I love about I'm glad you brought that up. And we'll close on Montreal. And then I just want to bring up the Leafs as well, Pierre, because they hit a little speed bump, nothing big. With Montreal, though, this team, I mean, look, Pierre, you're on the air there all the time. You hear it. You do that post game here on the Sick Media Network with Tony Marinaro. You were taking the calls with him. You saw the negativity. The sky is falling. And you kept maintaining patience. You never promised once. You never said, oh, I think this team's definitely making the playoffs. But you continued to urge patience among the fan base and say eventually, even if they don't make the playoffs, it is going to turn around a bit. You will be rewarded. What made you think that they could have a chance to do what they're doing right now, Pierre?
Getting Laine back really helped because of the power play presence. Moving Lane Hudson to the first power play really helped. The creativity, you could see Suzuki was starting to trend upwards. Slavkovsky's really starting to get going now. You could see it this weekend, which is really important for them. Caulfield scoring, creating a role for Josh Anderson was really important. The play of Heineman, Jake Evans, and Armia. You need to have an identity as a team. That's kind of their team identity. They play with hustle all the time and smarts. They're all three smart players, three fast players, three guys that get their role and have accepted their roles. So put all these things together. Then Montembeau's play has been good. Obviously, Dobish is like found money, the kid out of Ohio State. He's been fantastic for him. That game against Washington on Friday night, that's a thing of beauty for him. So all this stuff put together, and then being around their farm team in Laval, I'm watching them, and I'm going, okay, these guys are on the way. They're on the. It's a first, I can tell you, Jimmy, and you know I've been around this team since 1965. Mm-hmm. It's the first time in the bad years. Forget the great years. So those are easy. When I was a kid, like Montreal went every other year or every year. It didn't matter. Yeah. And even in the 80s, they were always responsible. And then coaching against them in the 90s, they win the cup, obviously in 93. This is the first time I can tell you that I see that they got a chance to get back. Forget everybody. Oh, they went to the Stanley Cup final during COVID. That doesn't count. No. Please. Yep. If it would have been a regular playoff year, they wouldn't have been in the playoffs. So just forget that. Mm-hmm. That whole thing doesn't count. It doesn't. What counts is where they're going now. Mm-hmm. And they're going in the right direction. And our good friend, Mr. Bowman, I think agrees with us now. Oh, yeah. Even though he was taunting me earlier this year.
So, and we might have a big Habs guest coming on later this week. I will keep us posted on that. And quickly before we move away from there, Pierre, one thing I haven't asked is how much did you see Dobis play when he was at Ohio State?
A fair bit, actually. Never live. I watched him, and then I watched him in the American League and saw the growth. So from Ohio State to the American League, and you could just see the upward trajectory. And then at the start of this year, where he was, honestly, was really I thought he was on the way. So very good, actually. I mean, excited for him. You look at, so let's just say long term. Let's think 5 years down the road. Mm-hmm. If you were to have a goalie tandem of, and this is not a knock on Sam Montembeau, by the way, but I'm talking 5 years. If you have Jacob Fowler and Dobish as your 1 and 2, you're in a really good spot. I'm just telling you. And who knows? There might be somebody else that comes along that's better. But if you have those two guys, based on what I see from their body of work, you're going to be in really good shape.
So it's interesting and good on our good friend Kevin Paul DuPont, Pierre. I'll send you the story after. I forgot to send it to you yesterday. I don't know if you read his Sunday notes, but he talked to Dobis' former roommate and teammate Mason Lohrei. They played together at Ohio State, and he said something interesting here that I'm wondering if you noticed. This is why I brought it up. He told DuPont, he says, somebody will make a seam pass, and he just glides over and gets a pad on the shot. It looks so effortless. He's just an unbelievable player. I'm happy for him, but I just hope we beat him. So I thought it was good. It was really cool. Like, I totally forgot that they were teammates at Ohio State.
They were at Ohio State.
I
They knocked Harvard out of the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
I remember. Is that something you've noticed about him, though? His calmness out there and the way he's
he's really calm. So I don't know how many people will remember, but Jeff Hackett was a really good goalie in the NHL with the Islanders, with San Jose, and with Montreal. And Chicago. He
the Bruins too.
Yeah, Jeff was I'm just telling you, Jeff was a really good goalie.
Yeah.
And one of the things that allowed him to play for so long, he read the play. He was brilliant. Like, he was really a smart hockey brain. And I'm not saying Dobish is him, but the ability to read the play is something that I transitioned from Hackett to Dobish in terms of how I evaluate. I think they're different because Dobish is a bigger player, but Jeff was really smart, like really, really. And I see that in Dobish. So, yeah, no, to say the seam pass stuff that Lowry was talking about, I don't know. That's just to quantify because he's there every day. But I can tell you, in order to do that, you have to be able to read the play, and I think Dobish does that really well.
All right, good stuff. Before we move on to our Q&A, Pierre, let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've hit a little bit of a bump here, 2-game losing streak. It's not the end of the world. As we know, this is a team that this year, as opposed to others, knows how to get out of little ruts like this. So they will, I'm sure. But one thing you and I were discussing today in our prep for the podcast was what they might be looking for at the trade deadline. Now, we're not going to say names. We're not going to speculate names going out, names going in. We're just going to say what they need the most in our eyes. And Pierre, you want to tell the listeners?
Yeah, they need an offensive defenseman. So I'll give you an example. The other night they played Vancouver, tired Vancouver team, road-weary Vancouver team. Right. They have 1 game left on their trip, their 6-game trip, and that's going to be in Winnipeg on Tuesday night, talking about Vancouver. So they came in. Vancouver, Kevin Lankinen made 20 saves in a 3-0 shutout win. Dennis Hillaby faced 18 shots, made 15 saves, okay, for Toronto. But here's the difference. Quinn Hughes has a goal and assist and is +3. Tyler Myers has 2 assists, and he assists on the first goal 31 seconds into the game. He's +2. So they're getting offense from their defense, whereas Toronto is not getting nearly enough. Now, I know people in the Toronto media market have talked about they need more offense from the defense. I agree. But they also need to be less easy to forecheck. And when you have one guy that can really handle a puck, and I don't mean skate it. Morgan Riley can skate the puck. He does. I'm talking about a guy that gets it and is a great first pass defender. Quinn Hughes is that guy. Tyler Myers can do that. Like, when they get Roenick back, he can do it for Vancouver. Like, they're guys that can do it. It's important because then you can back the forecheck off. Right now, they're pinning their ears against Toronto, and they're coming right after them because they know they're not a good first pass defensive team. So that's going to make a difference. If I were them, I know they're talking about getting another center. Let's just say, Jimmy, you started the playoffs. Matthews, Tavares, Domi, 1, 2, 3, and then Camp is your 4. That's serviceable. Domi's speed is a factor.
Yeah, it's good.
And I think he's played well. I do. I think he's been a lot better. Everybody equates success to points. Just watch what he does. He does a lot for that team in a good way. I'm telling you right now. So it's not a problem with Domi. They need a guy to run their power play because they're playing 5 forwards a lot on the power play. They don't need that. You saw what Carolina did. Carolina, the number 1 defensive penalty kill team in the league, they attacked them and scored a shorthanded goal in the game last week. So I think, and I'm not going to use names. You and I talk names, and we're not putting names out there. They need a guy that's a great first pass defenseman that can also run the power play. And if they can get that at a high level, I think the Leafs are going to be a beast to handle, a beast.
Yeah, that would be something. I agree with you. And it's undervalued sometimes how valuable defenseman like that is to a team. Our good friend Randy Workman over here points to a certain defenseman in Calgary, Pierre. I think we know who that is. He says, go try and get Rasmus Anderson. There you go. Problem solved. But
so now that somebody brings that up, I'm not going to say anything, but Jimmy, that's a good name.
It makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I agree with Randy. That's the type of player that we're talking about that they need. We're not saying that they've talked to them about that player, but that's the type of player they need.
Yes.
Sure. I just don't.
Are there other guys?
Oh yeah,
Jimmy knows. I gave him a list of guys.
He had a really interesting one too.
We're not going to talk about it on the air. We're just going to say they're teams where there's a fit.
Yep.
And it depends. And this is Brad Treliving's team and Craig Berube's team. And I think they've done a really good job taking ownership of the team. I really do. I think the coaching message has been good. I think the manager's message has been good. And so if they think they need another center, they know better than you and I. They do. They're there all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're an outsider looking in and they want an opinion, I can tell you, if I were coaching against them, I know how I'd go against their team now. I'd force all those top-end players to play defense rather than offense, and I wouldn't play a puck possession game. I would play a smash-mouth, grind it. And, yeah, Toronto's tougher on defense with Simon Benoit, with Jake McCabe, and obviously with Christopher Tanev and even Oliver Ekman. They're tougher. I agree. I'll cede you that.
Yeah, and that's good there.
They're not going to make those great tape-to-tape passes all of them. No chance, especially when you got people barreling down on you every other day for a 7-game series. And that's for Toronto. That's what this is all about.
Yeah,
it's not about the rate. They're going to be a playoff team. It's going to be about, what you're going to do in the playoffs.
What are the final pieces? And another thing too is we discussed there too when we were looking. There's some hockey deals to be made out there too. Not just we're talking, for first round.
You made a really good point. And again, we're not going to talk about names.
Mm-hmm.
But I brought the name up, and then you did some research, and you said, Pierre, look at the money he's making. And we're not going to say the money because then people will figure it out. But you were spot on. That was a great. That was a really good catch by you. It was really good. So you know what I'm talking about? Like, that's a good one because obviously you're going to have cap issues down the road. Especially what are you doing with Marner? Like, what's he going to make? You got to sign him.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think you'd have to sign.
By the way, Pierre, did you see they're making a fuss about did you see how after the game the other night, Berube came out and listed the things that they could have done better. And he says, we need this, we need that. And then Marner goes, I know we lost. I'm not happy about that, but I thought we did this well. I thought we did that well. And he's getting murdered now.
And I don't ever disrespect the fans. I'll never disrespect the fans. And I totally appreciate what you're saying.
I'm talking about the media.
No, well, I don't know what the media, but I don't know what the media. I'm not. I'll give you the Scotty Bowman. You don't need them, okay, when you're winning, and they can't help you when you're losing.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a Scotty Bowman. Remember that one. But here's the thing on them. And look, if you're a fan and you feel like he's disrespected the Leaf brand or the game, I get it. You're allowed to feel that way. Totally respect that. But I would tell you, they held Vancouver, a desperate team that had stunk on this road trip. They've been bad on this road trip, and they know it. And they're a good road team. They've had a tough trip. They needed that win. They held those guys to 18 shots on net. They held them to 18. So where would you say? I would tell you this. Tavares had a great chance on a breakaway, got robbed. Robertson had an amazing chance to hit the crossbar. Morgan Riley, same thing. So there were 3 amazing chances. If Toronto scores on any of those 3 when the game's tight, it's probably a different game. But they didn't.
Yeah.
So I see what Marner's doing, Jimmy. I don't have a problem with him saying that
either. He's not excusing whatever they did wrong. He's not trying to get himself off the hook and say, well, hey, so we lost, but we still did. No, he's just looking, trying to build positive momentum into the next game. That's all.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Here, but you can take things and carry it even in a loss to the next game.
All I'll say is they need, if I were allowed to have a voice there and just say respectfully, we're good here, we're good here, we're good here. Like, look at the size of their left wings. Look at the grit on their back end. What in my wish list for the past Christmas now, what would one thing that I think could really help this team? Elite puck moving power play special defenseman.
Yep.
He doesn't have to play in your top 4. He could play in your last 2. There are guys like that,
I know.
And we talked about those guys today, and you were like, wow, I didn't think of that. I didn't. So that's the exercise. And Jimmy, don't talk about how we did the exercise, but would you say that was a fascinating exercise?
It was. It was great. I love all our exercises we do, Pierre. Now I just got to start doing the physical ones to get in better shape. All right, let's remind everybody about our wonderful shows we got coming up. We're really excited. First off, man, it's less than 2 weeks away. I'm going to be in Connecticut at Sacred Heart University. for the CTI tournament in honor of Jason Pagnay. All the 4 Division I schools from Connecticut will be playing. Really looking forward to that. They got some great prizes. Our good friend Eric Oppen has been sending me pictures of some of the prizes we're going to have for the silent auction. So we're really looking forward to that. That's going to be January 24th. So I'll be broadcasting live. Pierre will join me remotely because he will be out in UMass doing the game there on the radio. And Pierre, will you be doing that game with Nathan Strauss?
I will.
And Nathan Strauss actually will be our on-campus guest this week, this Friday. So definitely looking forward to that. I love the work he's been doing with you, Pierre. He is definitely a star on the rise. Then when February hits, it really gets busy for the eye test. We're going to be all over the place. We're going to start off the first 2 Mondays in February. We will be at West End Johnny's on 138 Portland Street, 4 to 5 p.m. each day. That might change the second day depending on what happens with Northeastern. Just that way so Pierre can get in to see the game, but we'll keep you posted if we have to change the time. But as of now, it is February 3rd and 10th, 4 to 5 each day. And then the following week of February 17th and 20th, we will also be at West End Johnny's for the Four Nations tournament, 6 to 7 p.m. on each game day. Again, it's 138 Portland Street, Boston, Mass. And we also would like to say we're glad, and we're going to we have a great sponsor we're glad to announce right now that we're getting behind those shows at West End Johnny's, and that is Sam Adams Beer. So we'll have more details on that and some of the promos that they will be running. They've got a new seasonal beer that they want to get out there, and we're going to help them promote it. So welcome aboard, Sam Adams, to the eye test.
You're not allowed to have any before the show. After the show, I'll let you. Here.
Unless they make a gluten-free one, I can't.
Well, then I'll have to take care of your project.
You will. You can take care of mine.
After the show, though. After the show.
I'm going to find a good red vino.
Here's the one thing I got to tell you. I'm going to call the great, legendary Doc Emmerich. And I can say this to all the people listening. Doc enjoys one beer, maybe a half after a game. Okay, that's it.
Yep.
No more. I've been with him for a long time. Sam Adams is his beer of choice. Sam Adams, a beer of choice for the doctor. Yeah. And then when we'd be at, let's say, the Olympics in different countries, the one I remember the most was when we were in London. He drank a beer called London Pride, and it would be just one. That's it. But we would go, and it was great. He'd be like,
that's awesome.
What about that London Pride?
It's great. Good on Doc. I miss Doc. If he's watching, Doc, we're thinking of you, my friend.
The best, man.
We'll raise at Sammy's for you for sure. We got to get Doc.
We're gonna get him on. He's truth be told, he's warming up for the Pirates. That's his group, you know.
Good
and
for him.
He's basically like the manager there.
I hope they get it going, man.
Field. Yeah, he's awesome. So we're gonna get the
ballpark, Pierre. I've never been. You've been there, eh?
Oh, yeah,
that ballpark? I heard it's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great baseball stadium and great football field there in Pittsburgh. There are a lot of good things in Pittsburgh. The arena is fantastic. The people are amazing.
They are.
I'm telling you, Pittsburgh's an amazing city. It's a fantastic city. Vibrant. Really vibrant.
I'm going to tell everybody out there, too, for the Four Nations games in Montreal. So that's February 12th, 13th, and 15th. We will be at McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street in Montreal, downtown Montreal. Now, this is the new McLean's, not the one on Lower Peel. This is Upper Peel on the other side of St. Catharines, 6 to 7 p.m. every game day. There's one day where they have a matinee, so we'll recap that, and then we'll look ahead to the night game, which I believe on the 15th, that will be USA Canada. So everybody will be getting revved up for that at McLean's Public House. Come on down there. Once we know our sponsor for that, I will let you know. So a very busy month ahead. Pierre, before we get into this Q&A and Betway, you bring up Pittsburgh fans and Penguins fans. Did you see what happened at the Penguins game last night?
I watched the game, but what are you talking about?
So you can go, I'll send you the videos and stuff. So apparently, long story short, a puck went into the stands, and an older fellow wrangled it away from a kid. And the crowd started, obviously they're not happy. Like, what are you doing? Give it to the kid. And he's walking away, celebrating with it. They're booing him and everything. And the mother was none too happy with the older man that did this. So out of the blue, I don't know how, she must have been watching it all unravel, but I'm not sure which wife it was, but one of the players' wives came down from her box and gave the kid a puck and something else. It looked like maybe some kind of autograph or a ticket or something. And, the crowd went nuts and they loved it. This guy still comes over and tries to double down saying, hey, I was in the right and all, and they just boot him out and they kicked him out.
So I was at a Red Sox Yankee game this summer with my family at Fenway. And there was an older gentleman that caught a foul ball, and there was a little child sitting right in our section. We were fortunate; we got pretty nice seats, and the gentleman wouldn't give the ball up.
Like, what is wrong with you?
And so my son, he wants to go tell you. You said, "You sit down." You're in no position to get in trouble here. You just sit down. You just button up and sit down. And my wife looked at me and said, you should go say something. Oh, that'd be really smart too. So I didn't say anything. But the best part of the story is the people that were around us who, didn't matter. They were regular, hardworking, industrious people. They were yelling at the guy.
Good. I hate that.
And eventually, I don't think he gave the ball up, but the Red Sox saw this was a skirmish, and somebody from the Red Sox actually came up and gave the young child the ball, which I thought was great. But, Jimmy, I'll just tell you this one quick baseball story. I remember the first baseball game I ever went to was Old Yankee Stadium, and Mickey Mantle was playing for the Yankees. My dad took me to the game with my brothers, and it was bat day. I'm not kidding you. It was bat day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you can't do that anymore.
No.
But they gave out real bats.
Yikes.
I got a Mickey Mantle bat.
You still got it?
Still have it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's good stuff.
But could you imagine doing that today? People would be whacking each other with the bats.
I know, eh? Especially at Yankee Stadium, the older Yankee Stadium. Oh, boy. Good stuff. All right, let's get to our great sponsor, Betway. You go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. That's right. Free money, even if you lose. Scan that QR code right in front of you if you're watching, or go to the website and go to details section to create a new account. Remember, this is only for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. It is not available in Ontario right now. You must be 18 plus and bet responsibly. Let's go to the sick pick of the day with 3 games on the docket tonight.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, Pierre, there's 3 games on the docket tonight. Like I said, you've got the Florida Panthers are in Philly. By the way, Philly, I know they're not winning these games, but man, are they scrappy in some of them. Well, they won against Anaheim the other night.
Hey, Torch is coaching his butt off. We kept saying it.
Awesome. It's great.
He's doing a great job. They're a fun team to watch.
They're on their way.
They gave Toronto everything they could handle. John's doing a great job. The team's playing well. Good for them.
Well, they're in for tonight against what I would imagine is a ticked-off Panthers team after they lost that game to the Bruins the other night. So they're hosting the Panthers. I'm not on that at all. The Blackhawks are hosting the Flames at 7:30. And I'm going to actually look at the late game, a 9:30 p.m. Eastern start. The LA Kings are in Edmonton. Kings still not home yet, obviously, with the fires and what's going on in LA. And of course, we are thinking of everyone there. So the Kings and the Oilers, for what now, Pierre, if the playoffs started today, based on points percentage, the Edmonton Oilers would once again host the LA Kings for a 4th straight time.
Yeah.
There's a rivalry building there.
It's been going on. Listen, Wayne Gretzky got traded there. And don't forget, Gretzky knocked them out of the playoffs. So
that's right. That was 89, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So that rivalry's been going for a while.
History.
And don't forget the miracle on Manchester was against the Edmonton Oilers too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of history that's been going on for a while. This is why it's the only thing I'm going to say negative about the NHL, because I love the NHL. Please, the 1 team plays the 8 team. The 2 team plays a 7 team. The 3 team plays a 6 team. The 4th team plays a 5 team. Please, please, let's stop this.
I know. So that will be the case. It would be them again in the first round if it happened. Well, I'm going to look at that game right now. I see a tight defensive struggle. These teams, people think Edmonton Oilers, they always think offense, but they can play defense too, as they showed in the playoffs last year. So give me the under 6.5. in that game between the Kings and the Oilers. All right, let's get to our Q&A. Brian from Gurney. Question: thoughts on Polynesia Samoa being the next hotbed for hockey talent with natural size and athleticism? I've seen reports Utah Hockey Club is one organization investing in that population. I did not know anything about this, Brian, but it makes sense. I mean, hey, look at some of the guys they put in those rugby matches. I wouldn't want to see them barreling down the wing.
I'm thinking about USC had all those great football players from Samoa, right. and so did BYU.
Was that where the one, speaking of the Steelers, what was his name?
Polamalu. Troy Polamalu.
Yep.
There's another one. So, yeah, no, I could see the athleticism in the side. I know nothing about this story. I apologize, Brian. I know nothing about it. Obviously, they are enlightened as an ownership group in Utah. You can see it like they're. So I don't know enough about the religious part of it with the Mormon faith and Polynesia Samoa. I think there is an equation there, but I don't know enough about it. The one thing I'd say is they're really good in football and they're really good in rugby. They're really good in those two things.
By the way, speaking of Utah, I saw their owner on Twitter said that going forward for the rest of the season, the Upper Bowl is open there at the Delta Center. Get this, Pierre. $10 seats, and you get a free dog and a free water.
So this is what I'm saying. They're enlightened. They get it. Now they have a captive audience, and people love their product. And so I'm so happy for everybody there because the NHL is fantastic. Here's the thing. That reminds me a lot when Tampa was still playing in the baseball stadium. I coached games there.
And they had the obstructive views.
Yeah, and so they would put people way up, but the tickets were really digestible. And I don't know if they got free hot dogs or whatever, but I can tell you, like, I remember Pittsburgh played an exhibition game there against LA Kings, got 60,000 people in a baseball stadium, like 55,000, whatever it was. So I think that's great that they're going to do that. Just when they get a new building, it'll be fantastic. But good on the ownership there and great for the team and great for the fans.
Good stuff. And Randy, before I go to the next question, Randy, I see your wine suggestion. I will take it to heart and see if I can find it. Randy says, try Pomerol. Pomerol.
Yeah. I mean, there's one problem. You have a paycheck that's similar to mine, and we're not being able to afford Pomerol.
I've never even heard of it, and that's probably why.
Tell Randy to send a few bottles our way if he wants us to enjoy that. I'll give you one, Randy, from right in your backyard, Cedar Creek in British Columbia in the interior, in the Okanagan. Phenomenal place, phenomenal dining. I can't say enough good things about it. I went there probably 20 years ago. I've been sending my family back and friends there for over 25 years. It's an amazing place, Cedar Creek. And if you like Pinot Noir and you're Canadian, you can get it. Cedar Creek Pinot Noir is an award-winning wine, and they do an amazing job. Maybe we can get them as a sponsor. I'm just telling you, Cedar Creek is a spectacular place in the Okanagan. It's right outside Kelowna, and it's outstanding. Outstanding.
You know who can give us a lot of good wine suggestions? Our good friend Mark Recchi, Pierre. You know how much he loves his wine.
Oh, yes. We've had some good wine together. He can afford the Pomerol.
There we go. There we go. All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, do you guys see the Wolves save in the last minute? Yes, we did. To give the Flames the 2 points. Awesome stuff, Randy. Awesome stuff.
So I think he's in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think he has to be. Lane Hudson's got to be in there. Macklin Celebrini's got to be in there. So, yeah, no. How about Cutter Gauthier last night with 2 goals? He was bringing the heat a little bit, Cutter, shooting the puck.
He channeled that well. He was getting a lot of verbal abuse, and he channeled it well.
Yeah, he had a tough little vacation in Philadelphia, but that happens. It's okay. Going to Carolina, you get 2 goals, you could see, and those were ripped. Both those shots. That's his thing, scoring off the rush. He's got to start doing that. And when he does it, you're going to see he's going to start putting points up.
Yeah. All right. Next question. A to Z me, Cutter. There you go. Cutter Gauthier faced some fire in Philly. The kid reacted perfectly, in my opinion. What are your thoughts? Exactly what we just said.
Yeah, I didn't know that question was coming.
Yeah, we agree. 100%.
I apologize in advance for maybe cutting your hair a little quick, but I would just tell you this: is that kid's going to be a really good player for a long time in the league. Yeah. I don't know what happened with him in Philly. I have no idea. I couldn't even begin to tell you. There was a management changeover. Maybe some people wanted him to leave. Maybe he didn't want to leave. Maybe he wanted to leave and they didn't think he was ready to leave. I don't know. But all I know is everybody seems happy now. So
Exactly.
you just move on. You just move on from it.
All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, per Elliot Friedman, Detroit and Buffalo have talked a lot about Cousins. Yet we've mentioned that here, Alex. What would a deal look like for him to come to Detroit in your mind? I just, the only thing I don't see about this stuff, and I'm not going to get into names, Pierre. I'm just talking about a trade between the Red Wings and Sabres is something I find hard to see happening right now, considering Buffalo isn't out of it yet. These are teams battling for that last spot. Same division. I find it interesting that this is even a rumor, but hey, if Elliot Friedman says it is, I believe his sources. So credit to him, but I don't know. I don't know why the Sabres would be in a rush to get rid of Cousins. I'll tell you that.
I don't know what'd be coming back, but I'm going to stick with what we've been saying all year. Detroit's got a wealth of prospects. They've done their amateur scouts led by Chris Draper have done a really good job, and they got a big staff and a competent staff. They've done a really good job drafting there. And they'll just keep getting better and better. And a perfect testament to that is look what they're doing in Grand Rapids. They're doing fantastically well. And it's mostly their own players. It's not older guys they signed off, to get older players to help them win. They're younger guys that are playing there. So I don't know whether they do that or not. I've always been a fan of Cousins. I know I've told you that. So I don't know. Why is Buffalo so deep at center that they can afford to do that?
Bite my tongue on that one. All right, next question. John Flagel. Hey guys, does Hudson really need to get bigger? It looks like playoff hockey has already begun. I think no trades at the deadline if in a good spot. Your thoughts? And of course, he's talking about Lane Hudson on the Canadiens and the Canadiens, what they might do. Look, if they're in a position to make the playoffs or they're in, and the right trade. I'm not saying some huge trade, but if I'm Kent Hughes or I'm Jeff Gordon and I can add a piece, I'm going for it. Heck, you haven't been to playoffs in so long. And I mean, you got this young, exciting team. As long as you're not sacrificing a lot of the future and you can do it, go for it. That's what I say.
First of all, I think Lane does need to get heavier, strength upper body wise. You can see in a lot of his one-on-one jousts around the net. That's just a positive thing, not a negative. It's just all players that are coming out of school or out of junior need to. There are very few finished products. Not every player is perfect. In fact, there are no perfect players. So that would be one thing I do think. He just needs to create a little bit more bulk up top without losing his speed. His creativity and his elusiveness is phenomenal. It's off the charts. His power play decision-making is tremendous. I know he continues to work on a shot that could get a little bit more velocity on it. But no, he doesn't need much. In terms of at the deadline for Montreal, I think they're going to figure out what they need to do. If they think they have a legitimate chance and they can make their team better without hurting the chemistry of the team, they'll probably do it. Yep. But if they don't think, they can make a deal without hurting the chemistry of the team, I don't think they will do it. I don't think they will.
All right, next question. Bert L. Is it realistic that Chicago could find a suitor for Seth Jones? Interesting. Bowman signed the contract, not Davidson. Curious what a possible trade would look like.
Well, I'm going to just say full transparency. I talked to Jimmy about that name today. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying he's getting traded. Far from it. Mm-hmm. But if I were a team looking for elite, not mediocre, elite defensive help, Seth Jones would be a guy I would target.
If you can take the cap hit. That's the big thing.
That's the whole – that's – but
$11 million cap.
I'm not going to lie. Like I told you today, that should be a name that team – if you need defensive help, that's a name that people should be looking at.
All right, next question. Bert L. question, how do GMs evaluate the trade deadline moves they make going into the playoffs? I think of Chicago trading for Timonen, who contributed little in their run in the 2015 Cup win. Good move or not?
Well, I was there. If they won the Cup, I don't know how it's a bad move.
Right.
So I think you need bodies on defense to win. You just can't have 6 or 7 guys. You got to build it up. I'm not going to give you the names of the players, but I can tell you this. I remember one year at the trade deadline where we were asked about one of our defensemen. I won't tell you the city or the team. Mm-hmm. And And the player, we went to the player out of respect as a management team. We asked the player, would you accept the trade to this group? They really want you. And the player said, I'd prefer to stay here. So we said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other team that wanted to make the trade for this player, they went out and made a deal. They knew they were short on the back end. And again, I'm not going to tell you the player they got, but they got a player from another team, not in our conference. It was from the West. I was in the East.
Okay.
And that player ended up going to a team that won the Stanley Cup.
Wow.
But the player that they wanted, out of respect to this player, we went to him and asked him as a group. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. And he said, no, I prefer to stay here.
Wow.
Stay here. So.
Interesting. You do see that, though. I mean, there are just very identified strategic moves that other people, other teams, fans in other markets look at, why the hell would they get that guy? And then the guy turns out being exactly what they need. That's
well,
great.
Scotty Bowman, I can tell you right now, you can ask anybody in the Pittsburgh Penguin organization, go back when Gordy Roberts, Scotty got Peoria, Illinois, and nobody wanted him in the NHL. And Scotty said he fits perfectly on our team. He'd be a great partner for Larry Murphy. We're getting this guy. And Craig Patrick said, I'm with you. Let's get him.
There you go.
Gordy, for 2 Stanley Cups, was a stalwart for us. I can't say enough good things about him. It was an honor to have him on our team. It was an honor to coach him. It was an honor.
There you go. Perfect example. All right, next question. Randy Workman. Pierre, it must be so rewarding when your players you had say on a plane like you thought they would, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pierre watches his ponies. Trust me.
I do. So whenever they get called up or they get an opportunity to move up from the American League or from the East Coast League to the American League, I always get in touch with them right away. I'm always looking at the wire. I care so much about them. I'm not the only guy that's like that. Most coaches that work with players are like that. I see Christopher Pronger, and I'm just so proud of him. And all the guys I had in Pitt, and a lot of the young Sanderson and Castles and Hartford young guys, Nylander too, who we ended up trading away, or Patrick Poulin, like tons of guys. Alexei Yashin in Ottawa, I think the world of that guy. So there's so many guys you meet over all your years in the league, but you always think about them. You're always happy for them.
For sure. All right, next question. Noah Stein. Hi, Jimmy and Pierre. I have a question about the Pittsburgh Penguins. How many points do they need to make the playoffs?
I'm going to say in their conference, probably 94 to 96.
That's higher than what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's about where it's going to be. I could be wrong by a couple points, but I don't think I'll miss by much.
Yep. All right, next question. Alex Evanowski, the Penguins feel and look lost as an organization. It feels like every year they don't start or commit to the rebuild. They are just adding years on to be back like Detroit did. Do you agree?
It's painful for me to talk about. Jimmy, can you start and then I'll jump on after?
Yeah, Alex, I think we're in agreement with you. But the thing is, what do you do with these legends that you have in your team that you don't want to bail on them right now? And then also you got some contracts to deal with that makes it pretty hard to start going the other way.
That's really smart. That's a good description of what's going on there. Very perfect. So when you got Sid and you got Malkin and you got Rust, right? And then you add Letang, and then you add Carlson, who was never part of their cups, but still makes over $11 million a year. To Jimmy's point, it's hard. Like, where are you going to go? Here's what I do know, and I can tell you this. Now, upper management and ownership have changed. But when I interviewed for the manager's job and was a runner-up there, it was a priority. I can tell you this, and I have no problem telling you this because it's a fact. They told the same thing to Jimmy Rutherford. You got these guys for only so much time. You better win. You better win with them. So Jimmy was able to win in 16 and 17 with that group. But if you look before that, they didn't do a lot of winning.
No.
They didn't. They made the playoffs, but they didn't do a lot of winning. And then Mike Sullivan came in and got them over. Yep. But they kept trying. I'm sure they told the same thing to Ronnie Hextall when he went there after Jimmy left. And it's just a different team, The Gensel deal was tough for me to watch. Mm-hmm. The Gensel deal was really tough for me to watch.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, what's up, Ron? Do you think Montreal grabs a wildcard spot, especially with Suzuki and Caulfield not at the Four Nations? Good point by you, Ron. Should be well rested. I worry about Laney being there, though. Rather see him rest also.
Actually, it might not be bad for Patrick Laine to be playing.
I was just thinking the same thing.
He hadn't played a lot, and you're going to need that. He needs it. So I don't know if Ron's going to agree, and if he sends you a note, please tell me, Jimmy. I know Patrick Laine is a lethal weapon on the power play. We all do because all his goals, but he needs to get going 5-on-5 because in the playoffs, it's harder to get power plays, and it's really hard to score power play goals because people catch on to the rhythm of your power play.
Right.
So it's a different equation. So as you get closer past the deadline towards that final push to the playoffs, power play goals are harder to get, and getting power plays are harder to get.
For sure.
So that's so I
agree with you.
Him playing, I think, helps. I don't think it hurts.
Agree. Yeah, especially because you don't want him to have to keep doing stop, go. Like
it's rhythm for him. It's all about rhythm. Get him playing.
Rhythm. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. Slav had an amazing game versus Stars on Saturday. 7 hits, 5 block shots. How many shots on goal? 1 or 15? I don't know. In 16 minutes. He was noticeable every time he was on the ice. Pierre, you have mentioned that Slav is a visible learner.
He learns from watching. He doesn't learn from listening.
Uh-huh.
And you can see it. And so I think they're starting to show him, and they should be showing him like Matthew Nyes, how Matthew Nyes is playing with Marner and with Matthews. I'm serious. Like this is when he was having a tough time with the game, Matthew Nyes, he was going east, west, north, south, trying to toe drag guys. Now it's just north, south. Get it, chip it, chase it, get to the net. Let the other guy do that. When you're playing with Caulfield and Suzuki, it's the same kind of stuff. Let them do all the stuff. Hey, Jimmy, you'll know this.
Mm-hmm.
When Cam Neely played with Adam Oates carried the puck, and he got in the offensive zone, and he was a right-hand shot, and he would attack your right defense. He'd come down Boston's left side. He'd pull up just inside the blue line, and Neely, who was a right shot, would be going right to the net. And in those days, he was a beast. He was unstoppable. And so watch all the plays. It's the same thing when Oates played with Hull in St. Louis. And I'm just telling you, like, Adam was tremendous playmaker, one of the all-time greatest playmakers ever in the National Hockey League. But that's what they would do. And that's what Slavkovsky needs to do. Dominate board play, dominate slot play, and don't be super fancy with the stick handling right now. Just make it a simple game.
I love it. All right, next question. Postnet on 130. Hudson against the game against the Kings in October. He gave Adrian Kempe a hip check. Does Hudson surprise you with his defense?
Well, I've seen him play for a long time.
Yeah.
He
was always saying he was going to be better than people thought.
Yeah. The one thing I'd say is just his issue now is eliminating people from the slot. It's normal. He's a young guy. Old guys have a problem with that too. So it's going to be getting a little stronger. And I'm sure Robidaw, who was an undersized defenseman too, is working with him on that. I think Stefan's done a good job, just like Marty saying, he'll be getting better as a coach without a lot of experience. So I think that's a positive. And then how to separate people from the puck along the boards just because of his size. Doesn't mean he's not going to be able to do it. Those are the two things he needs to do better defensively. But no, he's a tremendous player. What a draft pick. What a pick. What a pick. Second round pick. What a pick.
All right, next question. Bahan Shazada. I hope I pronounced your name right. I apologize if not. Who's the most underrated prospect in the Habs prospect pool?
What a good question.
Yeah.
What a good question. Could I say Owen Beck? Is he underrated?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear a lot of people talk about him.
Sam Harris at Denver. Do you hear a lot of people talk about him?
No.
He'd be another one I'd talk about. Those would be two. I think most people know Demidov. Most people know Michael Hayes at Michigan.
Everyone knows Fowler.
Yeah, they know Jacob. So I would say either Owen, who I think is going to be really good, and then Sam Harris, who I think's got a chance. He's playing at DU Denver right now. He's got a chance to be pretty good too.
All right, next question. Randy Workman talking about Myers is going to get $13 million.
If he does, I don't think Toronto can go. Do you think they can, Jimmy?
No, I don't know how they do. I mean,
I don't know how they do
Myers, how do you do that? I don't know.
So I don't know how that's a hard negotiation. I mean, if it is, I apologize, but I'm going to just say, see what Crosby did in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Like, you got a chance to be like Pittsburgh North. Toronto is in a good way. Like I'm talking 16, 17, back-to-back. Toronto can be in that discussion. Now their window's starting to kind of like go, but it's got to go now. So the next 4 years, 5 years, why can't they be in that position?
Yeah.
So he'll have to take less money than that. And I'm not trying to negotiate his deal, but I'm telling you that they'll have to. I can't see 13. I'd be surprised.
All right. Next question. Gregory Debo. Does Dobson re-sign in New York or does he get moved? He's going to get paid.
Jimmy?
I know.
We didn't talk about trading, but did we talk about that player today?
We did talk about that player today for sure.
Talk about that player today.
Yep. People are psychic here. You're all psychic. That's why we like you. We're all on the same wavelength.
That player today.
Anyhow, great stuff. We appreciate all your questions as always. I appreciate the hard work of Shane up in Montreal in the studio. And we've got a great week ahead. No guest scheduled yet for tomorrow, but that might change in the next 12 hours or so. But we will be joined. I think we're all right to announce that, right, Pierre?
Yeah.
The rest, Kenny Holland,
yep.
The Hall of Fame GM, will be joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network on Wednesday. And then we'll be joined by our good friend Trip Tracy to talk some Carolina Hurricanes on Thursday. We'll ask Trip to look back. It was a very eventful Sunday there. I know they lost to Anaheim, but they did retire Eric Stahl's number, by the way. So congratulations to him. So we'll talk some Canes with that. And then we have Nathan Strauss on Campus Friday, this Friday coming up. So a busy week ahead, Pierre. Any plans for tonight? Just going to watch some hockey?
I am. And I'm also speaking to a college hockey team tonight, but I can't tell you which one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, their coach called me yesterday, and I said it would be my honor to speak to your players. So we're doing a Zoom call at 7:30 tonight.
Good stuff, my friend. Enjoy.
That. And then I want to thank the folks at TCS, Michael Maislin and his team there.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming back on board. We're really appreciative. And to the folks at West End Johnny's and the Public House and McLean's up in Montreal, you have no idea how excited we are. I think most people know that watch the show. I'm in a lot of rinks. And people like, I can't wait to get there. Like, I'm so pumped for this. I was talking to people in New Hampshire, and they're like, I can't wait to get to West End Johnny's and see you guys for the Beanpot.
Yeah, that's
great. I had other people talking to me at UMass on Saturday night. I did the game on TV with Nathan Strauss, and they're like, I can't wait to see the new Public House from McLean's up in Montreal. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, it was great. So thank you. Thank you very much. It really means a lot to Jimmy and I. We're really appreciative.
And speaking of thank yous too, Pierre, I want to give a thank you to your son, Ryan McGuire, for hooking Maddie and I up with some tickets the other day. We really enjoyed being at the game with you guys. She loved it. It was her first college hockey game. So
what a crowd, huh? What a crowd at Matthews. What a crowd.
A lot of UMass fans.
There was, the crowd was awesome. The crowd
was. What a cool arena.
What an awesome rink. Awesome. Seriously, if you haven't been there yet, it's getting close to being near the end for that rink.
Yep.
You should try to get there if you're in the Boston area.
Like a time warp.
Jimmy, I got to tell you, what a weekend of hockey between those two teams.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
They got physical for sure.
That was two really good teams getting after one another, and UMass wins in Northeastern, and return favor Northeastern wins at UMass.
No home team wins this weekend for those guys.
No home team wins. I was shocked when I saw it, by the way. That's the first time Northeastern's won at UMass since 2017.
That's what I heard, yeah.
That was weird. That was really weird. I had no idea. I had no idea.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, for everyone out there, enjoy your night. We will see you tomorrow here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.